Well, hey, Gundam Maniacs. Welcome to the Gundam Explained Show Live. I'm your host, Adam Blue, and you know how it is. Those in chat, if you notice anything technically wrong, just let me know. I set some things up to hopefully fix some of the issues we have been having because today we have a cool episode. We've got Steven. I mean, Steven's always here. Hey, Steven, hi.
Not
No,
always, but
but we also got a special guest, Jordan Blaza Olsen. And if you
Yes.
check the link in the description right below, it's her Instagram channel, the girl with the great smile. How's it going?
Good. Glad to be here. Excited to nerd out with a different fandom for today.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Yeah. So it was cool because as soon as we popped into the little pre-room here, like the background, we saw the Epion cosplay, and we're like, okay, that's cool. Because I have photos of that I want to look at because that's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
well, and I was
Yeah.
about to tease Adam about this being like X-Men explained now because obviously, we don't
That's-
even talk about Gundam. It's like,
no, that's the other funny thing. Yeah, the X-Men stuff that we could talk about. Yeah. Because cool X-Men cosplay, and you're an X-Men fan. Would you say you're a bigger X-Men or Gundam fan?
I would say that I'm in my X-Men era.
Oh, okay, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, the last few years, even with the Witch from Mercury, I was leaning more towards X-Men. Because I feel like I did my Gundam era for a few years, and you'll see with the different cosplays. But yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That is cool. Well,
we'll have different arcs.
Yes.
I liked that because that's kind of what I feel like too. Sometimes it's like the different things, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Also, I saw the Gundam Seed Freedom movie, so I'm going to give some impressions on that a little later. First, I like to start out with this, like, if there's anything Gundam related you got into this week. I'll start with Steven.
Oh man, what did I do this week? I don't think I did anything Gundam related this week. I was supposed to go see Seed Freedom. Yeah, it's not. No, I guess this is my video game programming arc.
Oh, okay, there you go. That's cool.
Yeah.
No, it happens. It happens.
Yeah, like I said, I wanted to see Seed Freedom and just totally dropped the ball. I was on babysitting duty, so.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
that
life
happens. Yeah, I know. Jordan, what about you? Just preparing for this, I guess?
Yeah, this, but also one of my favorite Gunpla builders, Perfect Grade Pete, posted a new thing that he just finished, and it's I can't remember the name, but it just looks so awesome, and I feel like I need to make it. It's Supreme Model Glory MG Stargazer Gundam.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Perfect Grade Pete?
Yeah, Perfect Grade Pete on Instagram.
Okay, I'll have to check that out then. Yeah, I'll save that here.
Well, and there was that announcement this week about the reissue of the 45th anniversary original Gundam that the one that came out in 1980, but that's it's got the wonky proportions and kind of
oh wow.
I'm
is it
excited
something
about
to
that.
buy? Is it something to buy? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's supposed to be coming out. I don't know what the release date is on it. But
no, I don't know either. No, thinking of talking about things to buy. I did a little too much shopping. Well, these were pre-orders, so I guess it doesn't count.
Oh, no.
But there's that the guinea pig or Yukijima GM, which is pretty sweet. And these are the robot spirits, so they're not the model kits, so it's not like I made these. And then the GM Sniper, which looks pretty cool. And then this one's my favorite. I was excited about this one, but the Ver-Anime Titans Mark II.
Ooh. Now which marking is that on the shoulder that you've got? 3. Oh, see, I've got the 2 because I wanted the Kakarkan.
Wait a minute. Is that the same one?
No, that's my high grade.
Oh, I was about to say your first robot spirits.
Come on, you think I would buy a Titan suit as my first robot spirits?
I guess true. Yeah. No, but no, cool. Yeah, and then I guess the only other thing I got into is I saw the Seed Freedom movie. I'll talk about that a little later. But spoiler alert, it was cool. So, yeah. But yeah, no. Let's talk about yeah, Jordan. How did you get into Gundam in the first place?
So like I was bragging earlier, back in the 70s, so I was still in the Philippines with my family, and there was something in the media about some mecha show. I remember Space Cruiser Yamato, I
Oh
remember
man.
Robotech, and then there was something called Gundam. But I didn't really get into it until it was released here in the U.S. when we moved to the U.S. And uh, it wasn't cool to like Gundam by that time, at least for my age. Like I mentioned
Oh,
earlier, I'm a lot older than everyone. But I was entering a time of it's not cool to play with toys anymore. But I
I
was
see.
loving the anime. So only back in 20 maybe 2021 no 2011 2012 is when I saw a couple of what is it called, the Mecha Girls, the Gundam Girl
Oh
design.
yeah,
Oh yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know what those are called, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I think it's Gundam Girls.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so when I saw those, I remembered the show, and I just started digging around online and watching the old shows,
it's a
and
core memory.
Yeah.
yeah. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I need to start, building the kits. And then I saw how tiny they are, and I was getting into cosplay. I'm like, maybe not.
Oh yeah,
So
that's like the
that's
opposite of building a kit is building the costume.
yeah. So that's when I decided to,
Crazy.
I think I'll just make the costume. So Gundam Wing was my first cosplay,
That's
my
Ah,
awesome.
first Gundam cosplay.
okay. I
But you've been
see.
into cosplay longer than well, I guess technically officially Gundam, right?
Yeah, 2016, I didn't know. I used to work in the clubs in West Hollywood, and one of the clubs that I worked at doing the hosting for the VIP tables, we had a different theme every week. So we had to wear different costumes, different
Huh.
outfits, whatever. And I didn't know that that was called cosplay. When you're wearing a costume for play, that's
Oh, yeah.
cosplay.
So you were
That's
doing it without even realizing.
yeah, I didn't know until a friend told me, you should go to one of these conventions and wear your costumes. So that
Oh,
was
that's great.
2016 at a Comic-Con Palm Springs.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
what was it that you were wearing?
In Comic-Con Palm Springs,
Yeah.
I didn't do Gundam yet. My
Yeah.
first Gundam was in 2019. But in Palm Springs, Psylocke from the
Oh,
X-Men movie.
that's
Love
awesome.
Betsy.
Now,
Yeah.
now we're leaning towards X-Men now again.
Yeah.
No, hey, actually, that's what's cool about the show is it might be called the Gundam Explained show, but we talk about other things a lot. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
feel
Yeah.
free. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay. So then when you got and understood the cosplay thing, you were leaned into X-Men at that point, like,
Um,
and that was what was more fun for you.
Initially, yes, but the group of cosplayers I was hanging out with was more into anime.
Ah,
So that kind of, got me to revisit my love for anime. And as much as I want to watch all these other anime shows, I was just gravitating towards mecha stuff
oh, that's
and
cool.
Yeah.
what I wanted to make. And I saw Vampy Bit Me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I saw one of her Gundam cosplays. I think it was Unicorn.
yeah.
And I thought,
Hmm.
yeah, I want to that's what I want to make. I don't want to make the kits. I want to make the cosplay.
The
That's
Because
life
I'm
awesome.
size
crazy
version.
like that.
No, that's pretty cool. So, but were you into anime like when you were younger? Or because I know you were kind of bringing it up, but saying that you were kind of getting out of that phase, or
Yeah, it wasn't so back in the Philippines because we're closer to,
yeah.
Japan. It only took about a year or so before the shows were shown in the Philippines, but it wasn't as popular as it's here now. So back then, I remember the shows. I remember Sailor Moon. I remember all the other
Oh,
Japanese
okay.
animes, but it wasn't hyped up like it is
Yeah.
now.
See, I was
So when
curious
you
about that because, like, can you kind of like take us back to the scene in the Philippines? Because I'm Adam and I are constantly trying to like educate these younger kids where it's like, you know, like the hunt for anime VHS tapes in the 90s was so stressful for me. So I can't even imagine how difficult it was to like find the shows that you wanted to watch and things. So
Yeah, we didn't even have VHS back then. It was the introduction of beta.
Oh,
man,
wow.
yeah, single
Yeah, the beta and the old school TV show, and you watch it with the antenna on top
Yeah.
of your roof.
and
So
if you miss it,
kids,
you can't go back and watch it. It's just
you can't. If you miss
Uh,
it, you miss it. But
kids these days don't understand how good they have it. Like, oh, I can just stream whatever I want on the internet.
on
Like,
their phone too. And back then, you had to sit there in front of the TV, and you have to have someone fix the antenna. That's how that's how janky it was back then. But that
that's great.
was my introduction to anime, is through, really struggling to watch the show.
Yeah, but when you came to the US, was it were you still into anime, or was it was hard to come by? So you just
Um,
kind of
Yeah, it wasn't on my radar. So we moved to the US in 85, and in school, trying to be the cool kid in an American school, you don't admit that you watch any of these shows until
right.
you're home on the weekends. And so friends from church and, a couple of friends from school, we'd talk about it, when we used to have to dial to
oh, yeah.
call them.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny because I've brought it up here before. I was never really into anime until I got into Gundam, which was recently. Because the same
Mhm.
thing, growing up in schools here, I'm in Texas, you wouldn't not only would you not admit that you watch anime, but then I just even didn't bother with it. And
See,
like
Adam was cooler than
sometimes,
us. I
well,
was
no,
I was
and
a bullied kid.
not that I was
Yeah,
cooler, just I was a little
bullied,
pushy.
bullied.
No, no, but there was then the times where I remember a friend being like, "Hey, there's this thing, Dragon Ball, and they're gonna have the Frieza saga
Mhm,
on. You
mhm.
need to just at least watch that." And I
Yeah,
was like, "All right." And I don't know if this was middle school, but then I watched it and I was like, "Okay, that was pretty good." But other than that, it was like Ninja Scroll. But it's great now. You kind of brought it up too with the
mhm.
internet. Like if you want to get back into something, yeah, I
Yeah.
love how so easy it is. Like even not only did this help me, the internet helped me learn about Gundam, but X-Men recently. Then I went back and I could do Marvel Unlimited, so I could start reading the X-Men
Oh,
comics that I
no.
didn't understand in the 90s.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the technology now has really helped bring us closer together, but also in some ways segregated us even more, because those who don't have access to technology have to rely to the old school stuff, which is anything pre-recorded or the comic books,
Oh yeah.
or the in-person activities where they have to go to comic book shops or any shops where they would have Gunpla building days or
Yeah.
conventions. Some of them, their only way to connect with other fans is through conventions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, that and it
And that
well,
can
let
be
me ask you.
intimidating.
Oh,
What
what
was
were you
that?
saying?
Well, I was gonna say that like going to a convention or going to like a build night, like that can be intimidating. I mean,
Yeah,
the first time I went to a convention, I was like, I can't handle
overwhelmed.
this. Like I'm such an imposter. Like I don't belong here. But
Well, yeah, and I was gonna ask that too. Like when you then were getting into the cosplay scene and then back into like Gundam, was it pretty accepting and like because sometimes when you get into something, you never know what
Mhm.
it's going to be like, especially online when you want to
Yeah.
learn more. So then you're naturally connecting with people. Have you had a good experience overall?
Yeah, well, I was kind of spoiled because I came into the cosplay scene with some pretty popular
Oh,
cosplay
that's
friends
cool.
who, eventually they moved on to their own thing and I moved on to my thing. But my introduction to cosplay wasn't that hard. What
That's
was hard was navigating the crowd in these
no,
giant
literally
cosplays.
walking through the yeah, with the
Yeah, that walking along the side of the wall, because as much as I wanted to keep it simple, there's no way you can keep Gundam simple. There's no way. No, you
That's what's
either
cool
go
about it.
big or not go at all.
Yeah. No, yeah,
Definitely.
people like the extra wings, weapons, whatever you could like throw on it, antennas. Well,
Yep, yep.
so I want to get into that. So I'm going to do this thing next. I am going
Okay.
to share my screen. Um, just to show off some pics. Like obviously we're both in our X-Men era right now. And so I saw the Jubilee, and I like the Jubilee character.
I
So
love
thought,
this. This is awesome.
Thank
yeah,
you.
this is cool. So like, and obviously the thing too about cosplay is getting creative with like what's the character about. Jubilee
Right,
can shoot fireworks. So
right.
how did you figure out to portray that?
So I also have some background in regular costuming,
Oh, that helps.
for pageants and for shows,
Oh, okay.
school plays, musicals, things like that. So there's different techniques that I learned, and one of them is creating a back piece to showcase either wings or
Oh, okay.
like what they do in
Yeah.
Carnival and Rio de Janeiro with
Yeah,
the giant.
exactly. Yeah.
That's
Like
the concept
peacocking.
of it. Yes, yes.
Okay, so it comes from that. That is interesting.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah, my wife is from Brazil, and so she's always showing me, through the years, learned all the culture, like Carnival, always talking about it, how fancy they get with the dressing up and all that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's my dream destination
Hmm.
is to watch one of those.
Okay, that's cool. Well, I wonder, do you ever then go to like, I guess that it's like the same type of festival, but like a Mardi Gras type thing?
Yeah, but for different reasons.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you
Not for this show.
go. Okay.
Fair. That's
Um,
totally fair.
yeah, no. So yeah, this Jubilee's awesome, obviously. Okay, let's move on to this one because this seems super elaborate. Like in
Yeah.
terms
So
of like I could just only imagine like you have to at one point like plan it out and then test out that works and then iterate on that and then do it multiple
yes.
times.
Yeah. So I actually wrote notes about this one because I'm trying to remember how I came about the
Oh,
idea. So the first time, my first Gundam is Gundam Wing. What I learned from that is make the wings really, really light because the material EVA foam, all of those ounces, layers of ounces, it's going to get heavy. Yeah.
They add up
So
very quick.
yeah, so that wing, even though it was amazing with the PVC pipe harness and the layers of EVA foam, I think it came to around 12 pounds. So walking around with that, plus the, corseted and the platform boots, it got really heavy. So then I saw Perfect Grade Pete's take on Strike Freedom, and the coloring that he used was grays, yellows, and oranges. So that's what inspired me. And I was like, how can I make this easy for me to walk around in? Something that I can put on myself and also travel with. Because this one, you can't travel with this one. It just hid under my bed. So
oh,
I
it's funny. It sounds like my wife is shopping for a purse and going through the same like thought process.
it's a really long thinking process, and then you
Yeah.
find a way to justify it. So you buy the purse or you don't.
Yep. Yeah.
So I bought the purse. I decided
Built the
to,
purse.
yeah,
Yeah.
the lightest materials, and this is going to be helpful for cosplayers, is the lightest materials to use are foam core board. What you use in grade school when you're doing the display
Yeah,
thing?
little presentations with the
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a 99-cent store, when 99-cent store
Mm.
existed, would have those for just really $1 each. So, and then the other piece is, how do I make the wings foldable? So for Strike Freedom, I developed a technique where you can fold it. It's like a pop-up book.
Oh, that's
Oh,
neat.
So it
cool.
folds on one side, and then when you open it, the front side, it looks like because it's painted. And then on the back, as you put through like popsicle sticks to secure
Hold
it in place. Yeah, so that's why the wings for that one, it's like almost 10 feet wide and 10 feet tall.
Wait, do you usually have someone with you to kind of be
No,
the maintenance? Oh, really? So you are
And
dealing with
Always
yeah,
solo. Like,
so that's why, I thought if I'm going to make a cosplay, I have to plan on putting it together and putting it on myself and taking it off. But fortunately, a lot of my friends that I see at convention, they just step up because they see that I'm struggling.
Oh, that's
They
cool.
see that
That's
I'm
cool.
struggling, so they help. But the Strike Freedom one that you showed was at San Diego Comic Con Special Edition. I started building that at the beginning of the pandemic because I had nothing else to do.
Oh,
yeah, we were all
yeah.
just cooped up,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
yeah.
so
So
how
she's
long does one of these builds take?
the first one, Gundam Wing took over 6 months with a few
Wow.
hours a week, and I actually had to stop right in the middle because I had to go on vacation in Barcelona and
Oh,
Ibiza.
good
So I was
reason.
like, I can put it aside. But because I've had that practice, Strike Freedom happened much faster, over 3 months, with a few months of planning in my head how to fold the wings, the gun, which separates. There's a video of it where I separate the gun and then put it back together, and it's
Oh,
magnets.
wow. Oh, magnets? Oh, that
Adam's
It's
sounds great.
favorite.
Love magnets. It does
You just
everything.
perked up when I said magnet. You're like, magnets?
Ooh.
They've solved so many problems for me lately.
Yeah, we love
There's always
magnets.
something where it's keeping the curtains together or on our Gunpla. There's always something. Pretty cool. Huh. So yeah, magnets to put it together.
Yeah.
So how long are you able to usually be in costume for a period of time?
Yeah, this one the longest I went was almost 4 hours
Oh
because
wow.
it's light.
Oh,
The
okay.
back piece, instead of like 12 pounds, it was maybe four.
Oh,
Good.
And
wow.
the lightest the lightest and biggest prop that I made is this double yellow rail gun that's like almost 9 feet long, and it only weighs less than about five. No, it was about 5 pounds or less. Or is it? Yeah, 5 pounds. 5 pounds. There's a picture of it somewhere there, but it
Okay.
looks a lot heavier. The magic of foam core board.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say that foam core, and I guess the additional benefit is that because it has like the smooth outside, you don't have to like, it's
Painted
just
and
painting it and like, yeah.
yeah. And so with Epion, what inspired me with that one is the whip, which is right here. So
Wow.
remember, there were these toys when we were kids that
Oh yeah, they
it's,
were like a snake or
it's
something,
the
maybe.
snake one. So that was the
Yeah.
idea for it. So
Oh,
I
okay.
had to
Perfect.
make it's
And what material is that made of?
guess foam core board,
Wow.
foam core board, and the plastic is a flame designed backdrop for parties, and then I just
Ah.
painted over it. So it's the same technology. It's wood dowels to connect in between, um, and then I have the little wrist
Oh
claw
yeah.
thing.
That's
Wow.
Uh,
perfect.
so instead of the kits, I created the big ones for
Yeah.
myself. The problem is where do you store it?
Right.
Oh my gosh, it's hilarious because we talk about that with little figures, but then having like a bunch of costumes.
So that's why I only have three. I only
Oh,
have
okay.
three.
Well, and it's
But
so funny because like the engineering that you're using is basically the same thing that they use on the kits. Like if you
yeah,
were to take apart like the Gundam Epion kit, it's the same like basically
Little
like
mechanisms for
hinges
that.
to create that whip effect. So it's I mean, do you think that you've drawn inspiration from like different things, or do you just kind of come up with it and say like this is what works?
I like to say that art inspires art. So
Oh, yeah.
even the anime were inspired by something. The creation of the Gundams was inspired by something.
Yeah.
So my first Gundam cosplay was inspired by the Gundam Wing Girl, which
Oh
is
yeah.
for me it's an art form. It's a piece of art. I wanted to look like the toy. That's what I wanted to be. And then Strike Freedom, I was inspired by the Strike Freedom Gunpla kit that was custom painted by Perfect Grade Pete. And then Epion was inspired by, I was browsing through Amazon. Amazon is the most terrible thing you could have on your
Yeah, it is.
For a variety of reasons.
for a variety of reasons. And I saw there was this really cheapy toy that was that was on sale. And the more I looked into it, the more I decided I don't need to buy it. I can design this myself. I
Oh,
Be
know
it.
enough. Yeah, I know enough about Gundam and building Gundams. I've seen how they move in the animation. What are the movements that I want to show in my cosplay? And so the first one is the whip. I wanted the whip to move, and I did it.
that. So then
nailed it.
on Jubilee, what was your main thing here? What were you thinking was the main thing you wanted to portray?
The introduction in the anime.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so,
cool.
wait, no, animation. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Cartoons, to be more exact.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when she goes like
Yep.
that and then her name pops up.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted, is to have that.
Okay, that
Awesome.
makes sense. That's pretty cool. So let me look at. Oh yeah. So then, what was the thing you want to do here? Was it the kind of the transform or the moving around of the pieces?
The gun.
Yeah. Okay. The
Uh,
gun
I've always had a fear of guns. There's some
makes
backstory to
sense.
that too,
Oh.
but
Okay.
I wanted something that I could play with. So I pushed myself with a Gundam wing gun, and then I
Oh.
revisited that because Strike Freedom. That's one of the coolest props that I could make, is the gun that pulls apart and then comes back together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That is cool. I
yeah.
mean that any boy's dream, and any guy
and
already
and
thinks for 12.
and anyone can make it because it's magnets.
Yeah. Yeah. Magnets, of course. Okay. So let's see. There was some other ones. Like this was cool. What did you want to portray here? Actually looking old? No, I'm joking.
Comfort.
Oh,
I wanted
okay.
something. So
To be
once in
easy
a
to wear and comfortable to wear.
yes, once in a while I get messages from my followers saying you should do a Spider-Man thing, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. So I made what was the one that I made? Carnage Queen one time,
Oh,
which was
cool.
it was okay. It wasn't, it didn't turn out the way I wanted. And then when I saw the movie, I was like, no one's gonna expect this from me.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's another reason why I picked it. I thought it was a cool, different style.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome.
and it's so comfortable too because this is at my booth at LA Comic Con. I'm wearing the Philippine Airlines slippers and socks. I'm
Wow.
wearing a house dress and a sweater.
Well,
There's food in the basket too.
oh, perfect. Like you're set up. It's like a picnic, just chilling. Yeah,
Yes,
that's
Yeah.
yeah,
well,
yeah.
it's funny then that the next one I picked is probably the opposite.
Oh,
Which is cool. I don't know this character, but when I saw like the design versus what was actually
uh-huh.
made, I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially
So
the plushie down there at the.
yes, yeah, and I made that one too. So
Oh wow.
This is Rachel Summers. Now we're talking about X-Men. Rachel
Yeah.
Summers is a Summers kid from another universe.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Oh,
a
okay.
longer story to that one. And in one of her storylines, she became like a war dog for the person the character that owned her. And she had spikes and spike tattooed on her face. And so this is for the Hellfire Gala,
Mm.
which lasted 3 issues in 3 years, designed by Russell Dodderman. And I wanted something, I wanted to revisit my sexy era.
Mm.
um, uh, because totally not me. This is not my personality, but part of cosplay is expressing your other sides that you don't get to express. And I wanted to challenge myself by not being able to breathe while I'm wearing it.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, and this is funny because like I only just heard about like the Hellfire Gala when we were talking to
Kyle.
Kyle.
Yeah.
So I didn't know this was a
I
thing.
didn't know that
Oh,
either.
he's amazing.
cool.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle, for all the times that you filmed and took pictures of our cosplayers. It's it's the glamorous side of X-Men.
Yeah, I love it.
Which
It's such an awesome idea.
But it seems to be a thing with X-Men. I've realized I didn't realize as a kid is part of the point of X-Men is kind of that freedom of expression.
Yes.
And like how characters, part of their storylines are that. And
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. And I think that's why X-Men's popular, because that inherently creates kind of individual people that you can connect with based on the story.
Yeah, which is not very different from Gundam. The only one of the biggest difference for me with Gundam is there's only a few main Gundam characters as opposed to the X-Men where there's a lot.
That's a good point.
True.
Although
so there is
now,
more.
Although with the Witch from Mercury, when I was watching the anime, it was a completely different experience watching that anime. I gravitated more towards one of the Earthian characters, which is Choo Choo.
Oh, yeah.
With a giant, because she's defending her friends, and I think that was a time when I felt the need. I need to defend other people. I need to be defended also. And that one scene where she just punched the other girl, I was like, yes. So I ended up cosplaying her instead of Ariel because I thought it was more fun to make her. Yeah. So there's one there somewhere with a giant poofy.
I'll have to check that out.
It's there somewhere.
When it comes to Witch from Mercury, would you say like that is a more interesting Gundam for you?
No, because I've seen the origins of Gundam. I've seen how deep the storylines and how very political the storylines were without really knowing it when I was a kid. Only when I started rewatching it in the last, decade or so that I started realizing, oh, that's what they were talking about. They were talking about the war here, the war there, the genocide, all the behind the scenes in government.
That's one of those like ties between like X-Men and Gundam where it's like they're very politically charged stories that maybe children don't necessarily understand it at first, but when you get older you can appreciate those themes.
And it's not and I wouldn't debate, but I would argue with people who are saying that the X-Men has become woke. It just means that they were not fans in the first place, because if they knew what X-Men stood for from its creation, it's actually civil rights movement. And Gundam is about the United Nations battle for leadership. Basically. So
kind of that
international
complex. But good point on X-Men, because even I didn't realize how social justicey it was, even though I did, but I didn't, and that's the thing. I think nowadays there's stuff where people are claiming something's being forced, so then it feels different. But X-Men was never forced. And even what they're doing with this new show is, to me, sometimes it seemed like, okay, they were way too on the nose about this. But then as I'm seeing it unfold, they're doing that on purpose because they're making the characters are making extreme choices that you don't normally see in shows on animation. And then I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing here. They're kind of showing what everyone talks about or wants, what a follow through could be based on individual choices.
Yeah, and that's a big part of the power of social media. That's why some people are afraid of a social media company being more powerful at spreading
Oh yeah.
information.
Mhm.
We're not getting paid to promote it or anything, but um, through social media, that's what I said earlier, is we're learning about these things that we didn't think of before. But also
Yeah.
because we're older now, at least I
Yeah.
can speak for myself.
I know. I think that's true. I mean, since having a kid and then, learning how to, live with a partner, and then you learn more about yourself through that. And then I've gone through so much self-discovery myself through, meditation. I went on, 10-day uh silent retreat, and I've done certain psychedelics to through
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
therapy to try to figure things out. And I feel like, wow, this is is it a completely different Adam from before? And it's like, not really, but maybe in small good areas. It's like, how
Mhm,
can
mhm.
I make sure that I'm not focusing on negativity? How can I
Yeah.
be helpful in a
Yeah.
situation?
Incremental positivity.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Wow.
But it's interesting too, because at the end of the day, we all like this stuff we liked as kids. And I think part of
Mhm.
what we can do as adults is reframe our mind, not only like the stuff we liked as kids, but how innocent we thought about things as kids, because we didn't judge everything negative all the time. And I think we can go back to that like we do with our hobbies,
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Look at that growth, personal growth.
That's what I love about Steven and I when we do these podcasts. We love getting philosophical. Like, you should check out
yeah.
some of his past episodes where we
Yeah, it
just
is
go
like
on and
group
on.
therapy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and you know what? I think that there's something to be said about that too, because when you think about um how aging X-Men fans are starting to view current day X-Men, it's very similar to the kind of messaging you see in like the original 1979 Gundam, where it's like the younger characters have a much more nuanced and much more I guess worldly understanding of everything compared to their elders. And that's like one of the
Mhm,
big
mhm.
themes that
Oh,
Tomino
yeah.
constantly brings up, is like, the young are the future, and the young kids, like, they get it, and everyone who's old, they're antiquated and they don't get it anymore. And you
Yeah.
think about like when we were kids enjoying X-Men comic books and like the Spider-Man cartoon and the X-Men cartoon in the 90s, it was like none of us would have ever thought like, oh, you know what, discriminating against the mutants, that's probably a pretty good idea.
Right.
Like we all kind of, it doesn't matter what race, what gender, anything, everyone identified with the mutants because everyone
Mhm.
has been in that position of like being unwelcome in a space. And and then as we've gotten older, it's like now we're starting to try and like justify the actions of like a general striker
Mhm.
type, and it's like, what? This is like totally antithetical to what X-Men or even what Gundam is about.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't have the language back then to describe why how we're able to relate to these fandoms, to these shows. Um, uh, at first, I thought what I loved about Gundam was the escape, being out there in space, because I also love Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I saw the first Star Wars movie in the theater when it
Amazing.
was released in the Philippines. And
Wow.
I didn't understand why I was drawn to it. And now I have the language. One is escapism, to escape the
Oh,
reality that you're in, but also is thinking of not positivity, but positive thinking, visionary, being, seeing what's possible out there.
oh,
Because
yeah.
we're not limited to, um, I talked a little bit about travel earlier, but we're not limited to the boxes that we're in. We're limited by the money to get out of those boxes.
True.
But
There.
to get out of those boxes is, what do we put our energies into? So a lot of these shows, a lot of these animes touch on, that's why some of the society showed are suffering, is because money. They're being suppressed and repressed
Yeah.
by whoever is ruling over them. And that's why the battle happens.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah, good
Got deep.
points. Yeah, no, that's good.
That's
That's what we do here.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, speaking of deep, real quick, and I don't know how deep this is going to get. I wanted to talk about the Seed Freedom movie, just give my impressions real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
Jordan, have you ever seen Gundam Seed? That
I don't think
one?
so. The anime, I think so on,
Because
where
that
is
one
it?
started in the 2000s. And
Okay.
it had Seed Destiny. And for me, and people on the channel know this, like, I don't really care for Gundam Seed that much. Like, I saw it and I was like, it reminds me of what, when I was in school, why people didn't like anime. It was that sort of thing. But then I watched the follow-up series just to give it a try, and I liked it. Because I
Okay.
felt like
Yeah.
it kind
Seed
of went
Destiny is a
more
lot. Yeah.
like what we were just talking about just now. Like the themes, I felt like are a little more integrated into the story better. So then I didn't know what to expect from this movie, but it was cool that we get a Gundam movie in theaters, even though it's,
Yeah.
the anime. And I can't wait for the live action movie, by the way. I don't know if we're going to get news on that soon, but anyway, so to be honest, I really liked the movie. It was fast paced.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like every 5 seconds, it was a new shot with a title card because they're at a new location. Like so and so's
Oh,
room, or this country, or now this country, and it was like fast paced, and it did the thing where it's animation, but the mobile suits are CGI,
okay.
they're CG, but it still looked really good, and even to where they had long shots where it looked like they choreographed like martial arts moves to
Nice.
happen. And as for story, it's pretty basic because it has the thing where it's like, okay, these are the bad guys now,
Mhm.
and like they wanted to kill everyone, and then the other story too that I think was, I guess, the more important story was, it was like the love story, but I think I've been thinking about it since I saw it last night. I think they did a good job with the love story, even though you wouldn't think that's what it's about. But
Okay.
but as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, it's really a love story, of the main characters.
Huh.
Because from the other seed, it's the character Kira and
Uh-huh.
Lacus, or Lacus, because I saw the dub and they were saying names differently, and I didn't know what to make of it.
Well, like Kyle would say, maybe that's correct, and maybe we're all just being,
Oh, that's right. He had a good explanation for the
yeah.
different
I,
names.
I love the idea that all of these Gundam names. It's like, it's a translation of a translation of a mistranslation.
Yes. Yeah.
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 um,
Yeah.
Well, so Jordan, when you would watch anime, then do you prefer dub or sub?
I knew this wasn't going to come up.
I think I think we're all pretty cool with. There's only one answer. No, I'm
Well,
joking. There
well,
isn't.
when I started, we didn't have a choice.
Oh, yeah, most
It
of the
was
time,
in
even now.
Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in Japanese, and we didn't know. And there were some really poor translations. And then when I started revisiting, it was a cool thing to watch it in Japanese and read the subtitles. That was a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
But then when you don't have enough time anymore, you watch or energy, then you watch it dubbed.
Okay.
There's no reason for it. I can justify it.
No. Hey, listen. This is
It's a debate that we have pretty frequently, and we
yeah.
have our own opinions for sure.
Yeah, like I've mentioned this before, like when I was in like high school, I was a big film snob. Like I only watched
Oh my
foreign
God.
films, and I would only watch them with subtitles, and but over time, something I realized was, if I'm reading subtitles, I'm not watching the visuals, especially if it's a visual based
Okay.
thing. And then I realized, you know what, I prefer dubs because in Gundam, I want to watch the animation work of these mobile suits. They're really cool looking. I want to be able to focus in on that animation. Or, and something Stevens taught me, like in the original Gundam shows, they really take their time. Sometimes we're showing or animating something that you don't know what it means, and they're
Mhm.
not saying anything, but it's almost like the visual storytelling. And you
Yeah.
miss that
Okay.
with subtitles.
One of my biggest things about like younger audiences is that basically, you see kids watching shows these days and they're like buried in their phones and they're just kind of like loosely listening to it and not really actively consuming the content that they're supposed to be enjoying. And so you miss a lot of the like kind of subtle, character plays that I think
Mhm.
um yeah, I would say if I had to rank it, and I think we did this with Kyle, was like if you can learn Japanese and watch it in Japanese, that's the
Mhm.
best way to watch. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
dubbed, because then it's like, okay, at least it's, in a language that you're following,
Mhm.
that you can understand, and then subtitled, even if the dubs are very poorly done.
Yeah, because sometimes the subtitle, even though you're reading what is being translated, sometimes it's the actions or the way in which it's acted. Even if the
Yeah.
acting's not good, a lot of times that voice actor is kind of given a certain direction of how
Yes.
to
And
portray that. And I think, yeah,
there was a Tom Scott video I watched recently about subtitles, and this isn't this isn't like translated subtitles. This is only for like English for the hard of hearing, like captions.
Oh, it's
And
different.
what's
It's so different.
it is, but even with like English to English like captions on subtitles, they will like remove words because it's like we
Mhm.
know that you can't read as fast as you can understand what they're saying. So if we can communicate the meaning roughly without saying exactly what the character's saying, then we're just
Mhm.
going to put in like the fewest amount of words possible. And I even noticed that watching some shows the other night. I was like, that's not what they just said.
yeah. I think one of the Gundam series on Netflix do that, and it might even be Hathaway that does that because I remember seeing
Oh,
that and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, and it's like, what's going on here? And it's so I wonder if because it seems like when it comes to like voiceover work or localization, it seems like that's a weird industry where they want to like pay little or something. So I wonder if
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we'll have these people do subtitles because we can get it for this amount. We'll have them do the voice work. We can get it for that amount.
Yeah.
Mm,
I don't
And
know.
that's funny you mentioned that because that was one of the situations with getting the first X-Men series going with the voice of Rogue. They had to go through Canadian talent agency for different rights and budget, I guess. So the majority of the voice people were
Canadian.
Canadians,
Oh,
and they
okay.
did a great job. So you're
Yeah.
right.
yeah, I
Not
don't
only
remember any boots in there.
That's true.
yeah, they were pretty good. So it's not just uh, the translation piece because like what you said is it gets lost from Japanese to English and then into the captioning. It's also the tone and the energy that they put in. That's voice acting, and that's why they
Yeah.
were powerful in the first place. But sometimes I do get lazy reading, so it's just easier, to. Oh, also, you mentioned this. They're not paying attention to what they're watching because they're spoiled by the fact that they can rewatch it.
Yeah.
True.
If they could
Very
not
true.
rewatch it,
Oh,
they would be paying more attention.
That's one of my
that's
big things about especially like that 1979 Gundam is that, people feel like they can always just go back and rewatch it. And I'm like, just put
Uh-huh.
yourself in the shoes of a Japanese kid in like May of 1979. And it's like, that you're only going to get this one shot. And it's like, you've probably got your parents screaming in the background. And you're just like, just let me watch my show.
yeah. Yeah, that you know what? That is a really good point. Like I thought, yeah, they don't, they could just watch it again whenever they want, but really thinking deeper. It's like
Mhm.
we were talking about with the TV where we know like once it played, then it was gone for we don't know how long.
Right,
And then
Mhm.
right.
it's like, yeah, the kids don't even have to worry about that. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And
And
Um,
that's
Jordan, do you
why
binge or do you like to like space out your episode
oh,
watching?
good question.
um
That's the real question here.
Yeah, because binging, I feel like if you like binge an entire series, you know.
so if I have a choice to watch everything at one time, I will. But I'll use X-Men 97 as an example. You don't have a choice. I wouldn't wait. I wouldn't wait until everything is available because it's one of those things. There's some shows that you're okay to wait to
Mhm.
watch because then you're going to be watching it at the same time as everybody else.
Yeah.
As opposed to some shows, like now I'm thinking, what were the Gundam animes that I watched and binged? It's the ones that I didn't have a choice to watch real time versus on recording.
Yeah.
That's how I
Right.
decided. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Well,
the forced episodic nature of X-Men 97 because I
you
think
can
about
talk
it
about
for a
it with
week.
friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh,
That's
did you see this part? And you're like, oh no, I missed that.
Yeah.
Like,
so smart
And
of them to do that.
And that's a big part of its success also, is because the let's call them the boomers, the boomer fans and the Gen X fans, it got big really fast on Facebook because that's where the older generation are.
Oh,
And then
Yeah.
it trickled to Instagram and TikTok. By the time it reached TikTok, it just went viral right away. And this also talks about how this generation's the way they receive information, if it's short, they'll most likely pay attention to it. That's why certain topics are better presented in short format than in longer format. And that's why the shows are 22, 25 minutes, the X-Men episodes, as opposed to a full on 30.
Which is funny because, like, I know that there were people complaining about that because they were like,
Mhm.
"Well, you're stealing away 8 minutes of my X-Men," and it's like, no, I mean, when you were like in the '90s, it would only be 22 minutes. It was just
Yeah.
interrupted with commercials. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
So that's right. They have the full length. Yeah. Yeah, that is cool. Yeah. But Steven, you didn't answer. Do you binge?
no, I don't have a choice about binging or not. It's
Oh,
like,
when you have a partner. I know what you mean. Oh my gosh. We went
Oh,
through what, like, I was watching Columbo like slowly. And then as soon as I showed my wife, she was like, I
that's an
need this
old people
every
show.
night.
But
Yeah.
that's the thing is, like, even like before I was married, this is such a funny story. Is like, I grew up with brothers, and I was always really close with my brother-in-law. My sister's 10 years older than me, so my brother-in-law is 10 years older than me, and so he was like hanging out with me and my older and younger brother all the time. And we would do this thing where we would play through like narrative video games at night. And I
Mm.
remember as distinctly, there was one night we were playing. I was probably like, Drake's Uncharted or whatever. And my brother-in-law was getting ready to go to bed, and he was like, "All right, guys, like, turn it off." And we're like, "What? We're not going to bed." And he's like, "Yeah, but like, I don't want to miss out on the story, so like, turn it off." Like, it's like, all
Oh,
right. So I guess we're like, we all have to wait till tomorrow to.
Yes,
wow.
yes.
Oh, wait, yeah, Jordan, do you ever play video games?
I've tried. My most serious effort was with Monster Hunter,
Oh,
also because of my influences, my friends at the time, which inspired me to make my Hunter Cove Tarath armor, which is a
Awesome.
showstopper. Oh my gosh,
I
it's
bet that
there somewhere.
Monster Hunter fans are rabid. Like,
Oh my, yeah, and that's another reason why I tried to play the game, is because I was told that I was gonna get drilled on why I wanted to make that cosplay,
mm,
and they don't care. They're just amazed by the
oh,
magnificence of the cosplay that I made, and then I
that's cool.
left. I
no,
left
only
playing.
Gundam fans are that much of bullies. That would be like, like Monster Hunter fans are just like, we love that you're cosplaying as Monster Hunter. If you're cosplaying as a Gundam, they're like, well, what's your favorite Gundam series and why is it
Yeah,
Gundam
yeah.
Seed? Like,
So that's why my cosplays have the ear covers. I'm
Oh,
like,
smart.
oh,
There you go.
I can't hear.
I
Time
love
to
it.
scroll. Well, cool. Well, yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about the end of the show anyway. I mean, this was a great discussion. Lots of cool insight on the building of the cosplay, because I think I'm glad you brought it up. It's like similar to the Gunpla. You just wanted a different
Yes.
version of that. And I think
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Well, cool. Well, yeah, everyone that's watching, check the links in the description for Jordan's stuff. And anything you've got going on, any conventions coming up you plan to go to?
Yeah. San Diego Comic Con, I will be there. I'm
Small little
debating.
convention. I don't think anyone.
Are you guys going?
Oh no,
Nah, I would love to, but it's just so hard to
Oh,
make it to conventions outside of Texas.
oh,
yeah.
that's right. But yeah, I'm still debating if I'm gonna bring Epion because the wings are like giant.
Wow.
Now, are you doing a single day or are you going like a 3-day pass?
I'm doing the 4 days
Oh,
because
Oh
I'm
man.
extra, and it's just, I was gonna say down the street, but it's not. It's like 2 hours from me.
oh,
Um,
that's awesome. Yeah, I'd go totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
we got the tickets and we got lucky with a room, so it's happening.
Have
yeah,
you already?
Awesome.
So you were just talking about you might bring the Epion, but is there like a definite costume you've already thought of yet, or are you still in that phase?
no, I'm still in that phase. Cosplayers like to plan last minute, even
Oh.
though we have all these projects ongoing, because I'm a little bit distracted. The other thing that I'm going to is the Uncanny Experience, which is the immersive X-Men convention in Minneapolis in September.
Oh man,
Did
do
you
Wow.
they
know
like round everybody up and tattoo M's on their eyes?
So
I need
yeah,
to look
there's
that
gonna
up.
be it's in Minneapolis. It's going to be held at the Minneapolis Social Club, which looks like Xavier's mansion. And so last year
Oh,
was
cool.
the freshman year, amazing. And then my mind is already also at Star Wars Japan
Oh,
celebration.
oh,
That's
that's
so
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, I
Is
saved
that
my
this year?
money in 2025
Oh, it's
in May.
2025. Oh,
I'm throwing a bunch of my money in that one. Well, credit.
oh, that's a good idea. That's
We're all
epic.
living
I
on
mean,
credit right now.
well, you know what? We barely talked about Star Wars really, and like I'm a big fan. Although I feel like some like the Obi-Wan show, the Boba Fett show, kind of
Mhm, mhm.
got me. But the idea of celebrating Star Wars in Japan sounds
Yes.
completely badass. Like that.
Yeah.
Like ah,
And I wish they were keeping the Gundam statue
oh, that's right. Yeah.
longer, but it's going to be May next year. No, April next year. And I think when is the last time? I think March.
I mean, they already took down
Yokohama.
the Yokohama one.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
yeah. So who knows? Who knows?
You might
Maybe.
have another one being built. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
the US needs one. Like
I know. Why don't we have a
China got the
Gundam?
Freedom Gundam. Like,
Virginia needs one.
There you go.
yeah, give us the Gundam Maxter or something.
Where would be the ideal place to build a giant Gundam?
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
good question.
Well, I mean, you would think maybe DC, but then if you think about it, there are other landmarks
But see,
around.
everything's bigger in Texas. So like
Okay, I
you
can see
gotta
that.
have
Yeah,
the big
okay.
Texas
But
There'd be enough room for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
but would Texas accept Japan?
Yeah, if they put enough
haven't
guns on
deported
it,
Adam yet.
no, if they put enough guns on it, they would accept. If it was heavy arms, I
Yeah,
think
Gundam
Texas would.
Gun. Yes,
There you
there
go.
you go. There you go.
All right, well, that's it. That was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you being on. This was enjoyable, totally.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, anytime. So yeah, thanks for all watching. Yeah, again, check the links in the description, and we will talk later. See y'all.